Indonesia, it's widened its scope of its export ban on raw materials for cooking oil to include crude and refined palm oil, leaving markets in shock over the latest policy reversal. The announcement flipped a statement a day earlier in which it was said that the export ban would only cover refined, bleached, and deodorized palm oil. Well, Mayowa Ige, Senior Associate with Financial Derivatives Company Limited, joins us to try and make sense of this development. Mayowa, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. So, I mean, help us make sense of why is Indonesia doing this?
Hello, Ritus. Thank you for having me. I think this is generally, looking at it, is the worst case of most drastic, should I say, case of food protectionism that we have seen since the Russia-Ukraine war. And then this actually still goes back to that war, right? If you look at Russia and Ukraine, they actually make up about 60% of the world supply of sunflower oil. And with the war, there's been a shipment blocked on the Black Sea ports. And so other global commodities have no access to these, the Black Sea also. Naturally, there will be a shift to the next, to an alternative, which is palm oil. And so this has, the increase in demand for palm oil has put pressure on palm oil prices globally. And it's affected Indonesians because they have issues accessing palm oil at affordable prices too. And so this caused their government to roll out subsidies to Indonesians. And so this isn't even the first step the government has taken to try to moderate prices and create local supply for Indonesians. First, in January, they actually made a policy mandating all exporters to sell 20% of their produce locally to Indonesians. And they also had another policy where they capped retail prices of palm oil to about 14,000 rupiah per liter. But these policies didn't work, and this led to the government taking this drastic action of banning the exportation of palm oil and crude palm oil, refined palm oil that we can currently see.
Thank you for that. This war is, I don't know, wheat, grains, maize, I mean, crude palm oil. It's just, it's like octopus tentacles that are just, what's the implication for this now?
Well, first we look at the commodity as it is. Palm oil is used in different commodities, from your food to your detergent to your cosmetics, and even to an extent biofuel. So when you go to the supermarkets, about 50% of all the things you see in the supermarket is made of palm oil, right? Even your noodles made of palm oil. So you can see that it's going to have a major impact on the global economy. We already have inflationary pressures. Global inflation has been increasing, and so this ban would only stoke inflationary pressures some more. Already we saw the US inflation numbers come out. It's already high. With this bans like this and even more, it's only going to stoke inflationary pressures further. And then we look at the next largest producer like Malaysia that could actually help to cushion the effect of this ban. They can't help either because they're also battling with shortage of supply. They have historically low inventory levels in Malaysia, so Malaysia can't even help. So this ban is only going to increase global inflation if it continues in medium term.
And what about the Nigerian market? So how do we get impacted by all this?
Well, we look at Nigeria first of all. We import everything.
Yeah.
Nigeria, we have a local demand of about 3 million metric tons, and we only produce about 1 million metric tons. So we have a supply deficit of about 2 million. And to meet up with this supply deficit, we import palm oil. And so annually, we spend about, I think, $500 million importing crude palm oil. And then even the local producers, there's that crude palm oil that they refine into the palm oil that we see on the shelves. So with this rise in palm oil prices, we would see a rise in, we would have to spend more on importation. There will be more pressure on Forex. And then even these manufacturers that eventually get this palm oil and bring it in, it's going to increase their production costs. And somehow this production cost will be passed to the Nigerian consumer who's already battling with squeezed disposable income. So we wouldn't be exempted from the global impact of this ban.
So, I mean, I know Presco, Como Oil, there are some private sector players in the crude palm oil space, and you know they're constantly highlighted as far as domestic production is concerned. How do you improve that as far as the infrastructure makeup for Nigeria to increase output?
To improve that, we need to look at the challenges. right? Nigeria used to be the largest palm oil producer. We
in the 60s.
In the 60s,
yeah.
we actually accounted for about 43% of global palm oil produce. And so when you look at that, you see that we actually have potential.
Right.
We have a comparative advantage. But like dot disease, we discovered oil and then we neglected all other sectors. And that's what impacted the palm oil sector. So we still have a comparative advantage, but then we need to look at the challenges. Some of the challenges that currently face palm oil production in Nigeria is one, we have issues with access to affordable financing. And then number two, another important issue is that we rely so much on the aging palm plantations. We haven't planted more plantations. And so obviously they're giving low yield, right? And then when you know the computer language, garbage in, garbage out, we actually plant low quality seedlings. We do not use mechanized equipment, and the level of expertise of the farmers is generally poor. And so these are the things that are limiting our production in this space. So what the government can do in this case is, number one, look at what goes into the soil in terms of fertilizers, the quality seedlings. Already we have the National Institute of, I think, All Palm Research that already have hybrid seedlings that are actually of good quality. So the government needs to look at that and think of ways to scale distribution of these quality seedlings to the local farmers. They need to provide access to affordable financing. You say you give finance to these farmers, but you put it at ridiculous risk that they cannot afford. That doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
And then also you look at providing access to land. These are some of the things that, and even I think also when we look at the aging plantation, we look at policy. What policy can the government put in place to ensure that maybe every 30 years new plantations are built for the palm oil? So we know that we keep having quality or high yield. And so these are some of the things that the government needs to look at and possibly partner with the private sector, because they can't do it alone. So some of these things the government can look into that to improve our production in this space.
All right, well said. All right, so next up, now kids out there that are watching this, if you're in school, you want to be a consultant, okay? Because the federal government of Nigeria has given out 853 million naira to consultants who are going to look at the Ajaokuta steel contraption and get that going. What led to this? And boy, it's good to be a consultant. What led to this development with the government? Lai Mohammed said he gave him all that money. So yeah, what do you make of this one?
Well, this one, I think somehow you need to look at the history, right, to see what is going on.
Yes.
Because, for instance, we look at steel as a commodity. Steel is a very important backbone of any society. Steel goes across, is used in different industries, from your agri to manufacturing. It would boost any economic production in any country, right? So it's understandable why any government would look at steel, if they have a steel plant on ground. It's understandable why a government would consider reviving their plants, right? But when we look at it, we started this whole process again in the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
We had feasibility studies. We signed an agreement with the Russian firm TPE. They built the plant and completed the 90% completion and handed it to the federal government to complete their 2% of it so they could commence operations. But the federal government faulted on, and that could also go back to changing government from Shagari to another one and all of that. And so that project, they had the negotiation, all of that. That project was basically put on hold, right, till 2004 when Obasanjo came in and with a concession. So this is not the first time we're going into thinking of, let's come up with a concession to revive this plant. In 2014, we gave it to an American firm. It didn't work due to non-performance. They gave it to an Indian firm. It didn't work due to, these ones were even accused of asset stripping, taking equipment from the place. And then in 2016, Buhari comes on and says, I would like to revive this. And between that time, every time we've had the budget, there's been allocation to Ajaokuta steel plant.
There has.
And but we have not seen about 40 years now, and that plant has not produced any steel.
Well, how about that?
Any steel. So I think, yes, we see these things, but I think for me, it calls to, you wonder the genuineness of this desire to revive the plant, right? It makes economic sense if you actually look at it that, yes, still people say the plant is moribund and all of that. You'd have to spend a lot to revive it. Some of the equipment used there are obsolete, right? But then if you're willing to spend, probably not spend money because you don't have it, but partner with people who can spend it, right? it will make economic sense to revive a steel plant. I don't think that Nigeria has anything to lose because it would generally help the economy having a running plant.
Well, how about that? Senior Associate Financial Derivatives Company Limited, Mayowa Ige, thank you for joining us to talk crude palm oil and steel. Very important. Appreciate you coming on.